Happy Monday. Happy Monday. I'm just trying to make sure I get the comments up. And guys, don't look at this. I got some sort of I don't know what happened. And this is probably really vain, but we're just going to live in it, right? I've got just all these crazy flyaways going on lately with my hair. And I'm not going to look because I kind of feel like a bird. Anyway, happy Monday, everybody. I hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. I don't know about you guys, but I love Mondays. For me personally, I work from home on Mondays, and I kind of get to kick everybody out of the house from all the chaos of the weekend. Love my kids, love my husband. I get to kick them all out on Monday morning and just have the peace and quiet of the house to myself, do my thing, have my meetings, do my live videos like with you guys. I've got a couple other things that I do on camera today on Mondays. And I love Mondays because it's just such a cleansing day, in my opinion. So give me a thumbs up if you love Mondays as much as I do, or if you love Mondays as well for other reasons. I'd love to hear it. Welcome to our Monday training here in the Real Estate Client Acquisition Group. And I am super excited to have you guys. If you're watching with me live on Monday at 2 p.m. Eastern, comment live. If you're watching the replay at another time, comment replay, and let me know what time you're watching, when you're watching, what brought you in, all that good stuff. Super excited about today's topic. And guys, today's topic is going to be something that we kind of muddle through a little bit because it's a topic that I've recently embraced a little bit more the understanding of, and we're going to dive into that in a little bit. So live, if you're here with me live, replay if you're watching the replay later, and we're going to get started here in just a minute. But before we do, one thing I want to hear from you guys, because you guys know I love engagement from you, and it's really what feeds my energy throughout this whole broadcast, is I want to hear one thing that you're super excited about, either into this week coming or from the weekend. One thing that just fuels your soul and has you really excited, either for the upcoming week or from the weekend past. Put that in the comments below if you don't mind, and we will get rolling. Let me flip over here to the comments. Let's see, here we go. Oh, lots of people in here. Love it. Kim, yes. So Kim, at the celebration awards last weekend, I was fighting this. There was something about the water at our hotel that just, whew. So all night long, I kept doing this at the gala Saturday night. Anywho, but thanks for hopping on, Kim. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Angel. Naomi, I think you're a newbie on here. I haven't seen you on here live with us before. Super excited to have you on. I've got my coffee. I am 2 workouts, a whole lot of water and vegetables in. So I figured I've earned some coffee for my 2:00 class today. Sherry said new listing. Yay. Sherry, is that the one we talked about, or is that a different listing, or is that the one we talked about recently? Let me know, because I can't wait to talk to you afterwards. I need to know now. So, okay. But diving into today's topic. Today, we're going to talk about culture and how culture impacts your business. And like I said, this is something that I really didn't grasp as much until recently. And now it has completely changed how I see so many things, not just in how I work within my business, but how I work within the brokerage that my husband and I own, how I work within my own family, just completely changed up the game. And I'll tell you, I can't take any credit for thinking of it on my own. It all came from this book that I read, Culture Code. You guys may have heard me talk about it before. You may have heard me or seen me post it on Instagram if you follow me on Instagram, but it is Culture Code. Let's see if I can get this to zoom in and not be blurry and all that good stuff. But it's Culture Code by Daniel Coyle. I know it's a little blurry. I'm sorry, guys. By Daniel Coyle. And it wasn't the easiest read, but it was the most fascinating. I don't know that I'd say it was the most fascinating. It had lots of little fascinating stories in it that kept my interest piqued throughout the process. It took me a little while to read. It's not, I mean, it's a pretty thick book. I will tell you that it prematurely ends before you think it might. And so let's see here. Let me get to where, so there's, you get to the epilogue. Yes. So there's 235 pages of actual book. I feel like I forgot to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. We're just going to ignore that. But then you get into the epilogue, and then there's acknowledgments, and there's an index, y'all. So when you pick up the book, which I highly recommend you do, I am not sponsored in any way by the author of this book or anything. It's just a book that I think is amazing. This whole like back section is just like extra stuff. So feel free to read it as far into as you want, but about 235 pages of actual book space. And it's broken up into different skills, different chapters. But it's kind of like a size 12. It's not anything oversized. It's a deep read, right? Man, that phone is not going to stop making noise, is it? But it was such a good book, and it really impacted a lot of what I'm doing now in my business and a lot of what I'm doing in our brokerage and in my family, like I said. So Culture Code, if you haven't read it, it's actually Culture Code, The Secrets of Highly Successful Groups. It was sent to me by my coach. And but I can tell you, you don't have to have a group. Everything we're in is kind of a group though, right? Like you have your group of clients, you have your group of your family, you have your group of your coworkers. So, um, you know, don't think of the word group as in like a Facebook group. It can really just be um, any kind of grouping of people that are in your life. Also, for those of you that might not be as into like reading, not all of you are doing 75 hard with me and having to read 10 pages a day in a book. At least do the Audible or the audio book, because it's well worth the intake of information, in my opinion. So kind of diving in though, we're going to take this bit by bit because I want to hear from you guys a good bit throughout this class today. I want to know first, what do you guys think of when you hear the word culture? I want you to put in the comments. This is not a rhetorical question. What is it that you think of when you hear of the word culture? What does it mean to you? What does it, what are some ways that you feel culture is integrated into your life or into the lives of others? Go ahead and put those in the comments. I'm going to read a couple more of these comments from you guys. New hair growth. Yes. No, I keep chopping mine off, by the way, Kim. Like I used to have really long hair, and last summer I just chopped it all off. So I don't need new hair growth. I want it short. I just wanted to stay like this. I just got it cut recently. I don't need it to go longer. Anyway, Gina said, excited about my daughter and I teaming up. That is super exciting. To be teaming up with your daughter. I worked with my mom for a while when I was younger. And then I love her dearly, and she will probably see this, but she is like a tornado and comes in and like drops everything off. And I tend to be more organized and follow systems. And so we work together well, but then we also don't, if that makes sense. But I'm really excited for you, Gina, and teaming up with your daughter. I know that's a big change. Guys, you're about to go for a small ride. I'm going to go ahead and just turn this phone on Do Not Disturb because I think it's interfering with the footage here. And let me see. So we're just going to move that here. Put this on Do Not Disturb. Oh gosh. I don't know that I can. All right, bear with me. We're at least gonna turn off the sound. I promise I'm more technologically savvy than it seems right now. All right, let's see if we can come back here and get you guys set back up. I've made no secret that I film all of these with my iPhone. And sometimes I forget to put it on Do Not Disturb. There we go. All right, I think we are back set up. There's a delay, and so I'm struggling a little bit. We all struggle, right? Lately, technology is not just being nice to me. Anyway, So Kim said for culture, and guys, don't forget to comment. There's a handful of you guys that are live with me. And so I want to hear what culture means to you. Kim said our team slogan is hashtag better together. That's our culture. I love that because I take that to mean that you guys aren't just a group of independent people, that you work together for a cohesive goal. And if that's wrong, Kim, feel free to correct me. I am not opposed to being corrected. But I do love that constant reminder of better together. So I'm going to, while the rest of you are going in and commenting on that, I'm going to kind of hit the highlights of the Culture Code book because, like I said, that is really what instigated my whole journey into building culture in my business and the impact I see in my business. And so we have a couple of skills that we're going to work through. I'm not going to take you chapter by chapter. We would be here like for a week. But we're going to go through the highlights of the skills. And I'm going to actually look at the book while I go through it. For this, I wanted to have the tangible book in my hands because there was something so powerful for me when I was reading it. I didn't want to just transpose all the information onto an outline. So a couple of skills that we're going to go through. So if you have pen and paper or you don't, if you want to grab some, now's the time to go ahead and do that. We have 3 skills that we're going to go through. 1 is build safety. 2 is share vulnerability. And 3 is establish purpose. So Angel said, time to get busy with more clients, looking for opportunities to grow with different companies. Okay, so your culture is in a growth mode. Is that kind of what I'm reading from that? All right, I'm going to check back in on those as we keep going. So as they come to you, feel free to comment and really throw it in there. But number 1 is build safety. And that was when I first started reading through this part, that was something that I realized was hugely important in any relationship, right? And I'm going to try to relate this to the relationships you have with your clients as much as possible. So when you start working with somebody, you are trying to build this relationship. You're trying to build trust that they have in you and you have in them, that you're all aiming for the same goal, right? But oftentimes we don't create this element of safety. And so if you're in our transformation program, one of the things you'll hear from me often is this is a safe space. This is a judge-free zone. This is a place where you can be completely 100% yourself. You can say those thoughts. You can say how you really feel about what's going on. You can say how you really feel about yourself, that kind of thing. And you're not getting any judgment from this side because this is a safe space. And I want you to feel completely okay and can feel completely safe and sharing your true self, because the only way that we're going to grow is if you have that safe space, right? Building safety in your culture with your clients, with your family, with your coworkers, in my opinion, is such a great foundation because people like to work with people who they know, like, and trust, right? And so the easiest one to get them to do is to know you. You wouldn't be working with them. You wouldn't be, you wouldn't be interacting with them if they didn't know you on some level, more than likely. Getting them to like you. That's what we tend to focus a lot of attention on, right? Is getting somebody to like you, getting a prospect to like you. But getting them to trust you is a little bit harder. And I think a great way to start that journey of getting them to trust you is to show them that they're in a safe space so they can completely talk about, finances. They can completely talk about their needs and wants for their journey. But another great kind of tactic for getting somebody to open up is to get them to talk a little bit more about their why. Why are they making the move they're making? Why are they looking for where they're looking? Going that deeper level instead of just saying, okay, well, we need to find a 4-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom, 2,600 square foot house, because those are your needs, and then your wants are you want, a 3-car garage, and you want to spend 300,000, and kind of going into the wants. But But that third section, I would encourage you to implore more about to help build that safety foundation is the why. So, why are we looking for 4 bedrooms, 2.5 baths? And they'll tell you, well, you know, we have 2 kids and we want a guest room. And because we have out of town family, you'll get a little bit more of the story, right? So that gives you a little bit more to grow a relationship through. Why do we want to spend $300,000? Well, that's just what we think we can afford. And then it gives you points to kind of like dig a little bit deeper. You continue asking why throughout the entire process, and help, it's going to help really just solidify that impact that you're listening and you care, if that makes sense. And so they're going to be more inclined to want to share. Think about some of your best relationships you've had with clients and what are the things that kind of solidified those relationships. Usually it's because we learn personal details that we can really vibe with. And so, then we have these great conversations that have nothing to do with the house that they're buying, right? We create friends, especially in real estate. We end up with a lot of friends in real estate. And so, but it's because getting to know them a little bit better has created this safety net, this conversational safety net that they know that they're in the company of someone they can trust, somebody who is truly there to help them. And the odds are that when you create that safety net with a client, they're less likely to give you pushback if you're trying to give any kind of guidance or anything like that throughout the process, right? Not saying they won't, but who's easier to work with? A client who is willing to listen to your advice and take your advice and follow the instructions and all of that, or a client who's constantly questioning, well, why this, why that, or just even worse, the client who feels the need to just completely always do the opposite of what you recommend, right? And that can be really frustrating because you're like, I do this every day, all year long, for years, and I feel like I'm not needed here because my opinion doesn't matter anyway, right? Who can resonate with that? And I know we've kind of rambled a little bit. So give me something in the comments. Give me a thumb raise or a me in the comments if you can resonate with that feeling of like, please will you just listen to the words I'm trying to tell you, because this market is absolutely insane, and that your offer of going in and asking for all these other things is not a strong offer, right? Like, give me a me in the comments if that resonates with you. And if you would rather work with a customer who, all right, you guys just went crazy on the reactions, which is super exciting. I love it. Awesome. So building that safety net is really something that helps the transaction go a lot smoother, helps everything be a lot easier, which in turn, which in turn makes for a better relationship. So you're more likely to get referrals from them. So that's an impact, right? An impact if we have a great transaction with a client, not just the transaction itself, but the way that we work with them, even if the transaction goes completely south. But sometimes in the way we work with them can still create this incredible bond that leads to future business, right? That's the impact on meeting your goals, on the impact on your business. Lots and lots of me's. And Kim said you have to set that expectation way up front for them to listen 100%. Like, you have to start establishing this safety net, this area of safety super early, because, and even before they're truly a client, you want to make them feel like you've got their backs, like you're 100% there to help them, even if they don't always like what you have to say, even if what you have to say is not always what they want to hear. They have to trust that you're telling them the things you're telling them because you do have their best interest in mind, because you are familiar with the industry and you're familiar with the process and all of these things. And so you're trying to have their best interest in mind, and that's what you're using to kind of guide them through the transaction. So I love that you kind of mentioned setting that expectation way up front. Setting expectations, building that safety net, I think are all really important things. And then in addition to that, um, some ways that you can build, because you keep layering that safety, right? You can also add in this sense of belonging. And guys, this is where I come back to the book. So they went through a series of events with different companies, um, with like the Navy SEALs. There's just a whole lot of short stories in here about like how different companies dealt with things. And so that's what really kept me intrigued throughout the whole process. But creating this sense of belonging with your clients, with your, the people that are in your groups is really important. You want them to feel comfortable. Like nobody likes to feel awkward and like they don't belong there, right? I don't know about you guys, but I've been in those situations where I've felt like the awkward one in the room and like I wasn't really wanted there. And it made me question like why was I there? Why was I talking to this person when I wasn't really wanted, right? It makes you kind of feel like the redheaded stepchild kind of vibe. And so you start creating create belonging with your clients, create belonging with your prospects, with your sphere, all of those things. And it can do a lot to build that additional safety. Does that make sense? And I actually want to let me go to that chapter real quick because there was some things in about belonging that, oh, yeah. So the big story that was in the chapter about belonging was about the whole story that surrounded it was Greg Popovich. And for those of you that don't know, he is okay, so don't. Oh gosh, I don't know if he still is, but I know he was the coach for the San Antonio Spurs. So somebody can correct me on that in the comments. I'm horrible about following all of the changes when it comes to sports, but he was the coach of the San Antonio Spurs, and they talk about his story and how he built this built this environment in his teams that was just kind of unbreakable. And it wasn't because, a lot of people might think, oh, it's the yelling and it's the discipline and the, all of that creates these championship winning teams, but it's not. And that's what you kind of learn in the book is that um, he it wasn't that he yelled at them and all of that. It was that behind the scenes, he nurtured them. He made them feel like they belonged. He took the time after big losses to check in with them, to share wine with them. It'd be really easy to like get back in the locker room and just talk about all the things they did wrong. But he initially checked in with them, and what I took from it was that he had this recognition that like we're all people and we all have emotions and feelings. We're all feeling like crap because they just had a big loss, right? But he put aside his own emotions because he's also upset, right, that they lost. But he put aside that to make sure that his people were taken care of. And it created this sense of belonging, like they belonged to this culture that cared. Does that make sense at all? A couple of comments in here. Ooh, lots and lots of people have hopped on. Awesome. Desiree said, respect, mutual respect matters. Respect for their needs and their motivations and their respect for your knowledge and expertise go a long way to creating a strong sense of belonging and a strong safety net. I love that. So I'm going to read it again for you guys. Respect, mutual respect matters. Respect for their needs and their motivations and their respect for your knowledge and expertise go a long way to creating a strong sense of belonging and a strong safety net. I think that's important because sometimes you start working with people and it becomes this clash, right? Of who knows better, and they know their needs better, certainly, but I think as a realtor, you have to learn to be really empathetic and understanding of like what this process they're going through. And I don't want to say use that, but like allow that to guide you in the best way to guide them. Does that make sense? I love that, Desiree. Thanks so much for the contribution there. Lisa said, I think it gives you more confidence too. 100%. Like when you're comfortable with people, when you feel like there's a safety net there, you feel like you can say truly what you need to say, right? You don't feel like you have to bite your tongue per se. You feel like you can truly say what it is that you need to say to help whatever the process is. And that was super vague in so many ways, but I agree. It gives you that confidence um, to just to be you, right? To be authentically you. And that's what we're striving for, is to be authentically ourselves. So skill 1 was build safety. Kind of a sub skill of safety was building belonging. And I think whenever you create this community of involvement and belonging, it helps people feel more safe and it helps them feel more comfortable in that environment as well. So number 2, share vulnerability. And this is something that you guys have seen me do a number of times in this group, is be vulnerable, because I've come to realize that when I'm vulnerable with you guys, I can truly be that much closer to my authentic self, right? When I am vulnerable on social media, I can be that much closer to my authentic self. And social media is the epitome of the filter lifestyle, right? Social media is where everybody puts all their best stuff out there. And I made a decision with myself last year that I'm done putting all the shiny out there. I'm putting the dirty raw out there too, because a lot of times we fight these silent battles and we think that we're the only ones going through them. Or even if we don't think we're the only ones going through them, sometimes we feel embarrassed to feel a certain way or to be in a certain place in our life. We feel like we should be further along. We feel like we should know the answers to things, right? But sometimes our brains fail us. Sometimes our emotions fail us. And we don't know all the things, and we don't know how to feel all the things. And sometimes we just fail, and we need to know that it's okay to fail sometimes too, right? Like a lot of us grew up in generations where failure wasn't an option. And that's still a very popular phase, that failure is not an option. And so maybe like the grand failure isn't an option, but we don't give ourselves, when you live in a mindset of never being able to acknowledge failure, you're really limiting your ability to grow, in my opinion. When you can't acknowledge that sometimes you're not always perfect, you're kind of putting a lid on the ability to say, hey, that didn't go as I planned. And I'm feeling a little off my rocker right now. So, how can we learn and grow from this? Right? We all have moments that we could learn and grow from. And so, sharing that vulnerability, in my opinion, is what allows people to recognize that we're all human. We can all win and fail together. Something I'm failing with, or something I've struggled with, maybe something that somebody else has struggled with, and they just never wanted to admit it, or maybe they didn't see it. And reading my story helped them better understand their own struggles. I wrote a post last fall, late last fall, on burnout. And I'm going to try to, I'm pretty sure it was fall. Maybe it was earlier, it was earlier this year. I wrote a post on burnout, and it was about a time that I really struggled with. And some of the deep, dark places I went to during that phase. And I've had more conversations with people in the past few months who keep pulling me back to that post. When I went to Dallas last weekend, I met with somebody, or I had a very small conversation with somebody who brought that post up that I didn't even know saw it. And they had said, I wanted to reach out and say, do more of that, because that was, I guess, something that resonated, but they didn't, and they just didn't. Um, and but I think it's something that sharing our stories of what we go through every day, it goes one step further to creating this community of, we're all more alike than we realize, right? And when we share our vulnerability, it gives people in our groups, in our environments, almost permission to be able to be vulnerable in return. It goes back to creating this safe space. Like, hey, I'm not perfect by any means. And I have some dumb opinions too. I know that. I have opinions that I think are legit, but I'm sure I also have some dumb opinions, right? And but I want people to know that it's okay to have those feelings, and it's okay to have those opinions. What matters is what you do with them. What matters is the takeaway that you build on and grow from them. So Desiree said, stop chopping onions. I am trying so hard. And last night we watched A Dog's Purpose. Y'all, I try really hard not to watch dog movies, but it has got me in such like an emotional state now. I'm pretty sure I cried about every 15 minutes in that movie. But yeah, so being vulnerable, and it creates this environment and this community within your group that just gives people the okay, with your clients, with your prospects, with other agents, with your family, gives people the go ahead and lets them know that, hey, it's okay to be vulnerable here, because none of us are perfect, right? And none of us are going to we're going to fail at some point, and it's okay to talk about that and grow from it. So we're going to move on from vulnerability. So yes, Sherry said that one's a tearjerker. We started it with the kids and we finished it after the kids went to bed. And I was like, so we're good now. Like, we don't have to watch that anymore. Even if like, we're just going to skip over that one. I can't handle dog movies very well. I always cry during them. Happy, sad, I don't know. It like injects instant like pregnancy hormones into my body. So, and then the third skill that I wanted to talk to you guys about is establishing purpose. And I think that is, so this one is going to be interesting, because purpose is, I think, something that not a lot of people think about in real estate. And if you do, I would love to hear how you set purpose and you set intention in your business. Um, you guys know I love comments, and we are coming off of a very quietly skill section. Not much to say about vulnerability. So, need you guys to kind of flood the comments here. I would love to hear from you guys, if you establish purpose or you establish intent in your business at a high level. And then also if you establish it like with your clients or with your prospects. I would love to hear how you guys do that. One of the things that you talked about earlier was setting expectations from the get-go. And I thought that was really important, because you're, like you said, you're kind of setting the expectations. And along with that, I could see, okay, what is our purpose here? What is our intent? That's something we do in transformation, which is, what is our purpose in this program? What is it you're looking to get out of it the most? So what is our intent? And that's what we're gonna focus on and gear towards. And I encourage you to all ask each one of your clients that when you sit down with them, what is our purpose here? Well, it could be to sell this house and buy another house. Okay, that's super broad and vague. What is our purpose here? Our purpose is to get our home sold and to find another one, while trying to minimize. Brett, I'm gonna get to you on boundaries in a second. Got you. So, um, what is we're gonna try to minimize impact of that transition, right? Or it can go deeper. It can go into the reasons, and it comes back to the whys. Why are we selling? Why are we buying new? That kind of thing. But establishing purpose kind of gives you the only thing that's coming to mind right now is the solar system, right? And so you have the sun and you have the planets that kind of revolve around it. And for me, purpose is like your sun. Your purpose and what you're doing is your sun. And then all the little things that we're doing are the planets, and they're revolving around our purpose, right? Same thing with the program, with the transformation program. We have our purpose, and all the little things that we do, they all come back. They all revolve around and ultimately come back to what is our purpose? Our purpose here is to build confidence and establish a systematic system. My words aren't working for bringing in new leads to my business, right? So those are kind of two things. One's more mindset, emotional, one is very systematic. And so whenever we start to get all of those outside ideas and forces, we can come back to the purpose, right? Which is this going to help me build confidence? Is this going to help me create an established system for building leads? It gives you a mission per se. So I kind of use those three words interchangeably, mission, purpose, intention, that kind of thing, because those are the words that guide us, that keep us on track. They're, I use a lot of metaphors, guys. I'm so sorry. But they're the train tracks, right? So Gina said, we have the tagline family focused real estate, as well as Ephesians 3:20 with a mini bio on how this is applied to our family and business, and how we love being a part of our client's story, keeping all things in alignment. I'm going to read it back to myself real quick. You guys know I read things twice, especially longer paragraphs. Yeah, I think that's great. That's kind of what I love about it, is you have like a simple tagline that's eye-catching. So that's really great for marketing. But then your mini bio kind of shares your story. And I think it taps into that vulnerability aspect that we were talking about, to help show people like, hey, we're people, we're human. We're not just a logo. And kind of your focus and your mission as well. I would encourage you, all of you, not just Gina. I would encourage all of you, with every client you sit down with, maybe in whatever your paperwork is, whatever your information sheet, your, the page that you take down to like learn more about them, right? Maybe add a line of, what is our purpose here? What is our, what would make this a successful transaction? And kind of like get that feedback from them when you first meet with them. And it's going to seem silly, right, to ask that question. But I think you'll find that hearing their words and how they perceive it, and then writing that down and kind of referring to that in everything that you do, will help keep the ship right. It will help keep everybody on the same page. And then at the end, it kind of gives you something back to look at and say like, hey, like, how did this match up to what our purpose and our intent was? And if it was great, then you can, obviously go from there and can build on it if you want, but you met the purpose there. Also gives you a great time to be like asking for a referral at that point, not to get into the marketing side too much. But, and if it didn't match up, if it didn't go as planned, then it also gives you a place to reflect and kind of analyze what happened, right? So establishing a purpose with each of your clients, and it's not just clients, guys, it's in your business. It's your purpose for your business. It's your purpose for your life. It's your purpose for your day-to-day activities. What is my purpose for doing this prospecting? What is my purpose for doing this piece of marketing? What is my purpose for doing this advertising? Having a purpose, it kind of brings you back to center of like, does it align with my goals, with my mission, with everything that I'm trying to do? Or am I just flying all around? Guys, I just caught myself. This hair is just, I'm going to have to do something different with this. And then kind of the bonus on top, because you did bring it up, Brett, is boundaries. And I know I've talked to a number of you about boundaries already. I just had a good conversation with somebody last week about boundaries. and recognizing that boundaries aren't just, you know, keeping people that aren't good for us out of our lives. It's not just telling people, no, we're not going to do something, which that's really important. I think sometimes, especially as realtors, we tend to want to say yes to everything because we always want to be helpful, right? And that is just in our nature. Realtors tend to be more nurturing. And so it's in our nature to want to help, to always want to say yes, right? But how many times do you find yourself stuck in a situation or unable to accomplish your goals for the day, for the week, for the month because you have overcommitted and overscheduled yourself? I'm going to raise my hand real quick. I'm just going to take a pause and raise my hand because I am a nurturer by heart. And I have got a friend of mine who is not a nurturer. And every time I talk to her, she's just like, you have got to stop telling everybody that you will always help them. She goes, because you can't help everybody, not without sacrificing yourself. So here's the other flip side to that. In addition to setting that boundary of telling people no, you also need to set a boundary with yourself. You've got to set a boundary with yourself and give yourself permission to say no, to things you might like think about doing. Here's an example of something I'm struggling with. Story time. My sister agreed to do a triathlon in September. Sorry, kind of a brain moment there. And I was like, oh, that's really exciting. I used to do triathlons and run, and getting back into running. The idea of doing another triathlon scares the bejesus out of me because I don't think my area that I live in now is really great for biking. And I'm also very clumsy by nature. And bear with me for this short little story. Anyway, the idea terrifies me, but I was really excited for her because it was a fun time, and I was in amazing shape. I had like the shoulder muscle going on. But I thought it was really cool. I was excited for her. A friend of hers doing it, roped her into it. She said she agreed to do it. She starts telling me more about this and like telling me when it is, where it is. And I was like, you signed up for a half Ironman. That's a 6-hour race average. And all of a sudden she was like, what did I get myself into? Because now she was already committed without doing her research. And she's just like, oh my gosh. So in my mind, as soon as she said that, I was like, nope, not doing that. Not going into a half Ironman because I'm terrified to do another triathlon to begin with. And the idea of now training, I'm in the middle of 75 hard, the idea of tacking on to that training for a half Ironman, not something I am ready to commit myself to, right? So was at peace with that decision. You go do you, boo. I'm going to cheer you on. Maybe I'll run a little bit with you, but not for me, not this year. So then this past weekend, we were at my brother's birthday dinner, and a friend of his, his friend's mom was also at the dinner, and we get to talking, and it turns out it's her dream, and we really vibed. We clicked off well. It's her dream to do that particular half Ironman. And so now she's like, you got to do it with us. You got to do it. And the peer pressure starts rolling in. So then over the past 2 days, I have gotten it in my head, like, maybe I could do this, right? On my run this morning, I'm like, yeah, like I could do this. And I'm feeling that strength and that excitement grow and everything like that. And so, but it's also like, do I need to do this? This is a boundary I need to set with myself, that just because it sounds fun and just because it sounds like a good challenge, is it a good fit for my mission in life right now? No, it's not. It's not really. Would it probably be good for me to do another triathlon at some point to overcome that fear I've built up for myself? Absolutely. Do I need to overcommit myself to agree to do a half Ironman triathlon in the fall? Probably not. So the thing that kind of brought me back down to reality was I looked at the registration, and a minimum, it's like $389 or something like that. And I was like, I don't know that I'm feeling it that much yet. So I'm going to still battle with it a little bit, I know, but that's a commitment to myself and a boundary I'm having to set with myself, that just because it sounds fun doesn't mean I need to commit to it, doesn't mean I need to do to it, right? So, um, Desiree said, it is so okay to say no. It's equally as hard to do so. Absolutely. It is. And it's harder to say no to those that are closest to us, right? It's harder to say no to our kids. It's harder for them for certain things. My kids ask me for new toys all the time. That's easy to say no to. We have so many toys. Like, I'm about to open a Toys R Us, bring it back to life. So it's hard to say no to our loved ones. It's hard to say no to things that interest us, even if they aren't aligned with our purpose. And your purpose can change. Like, your intentions and your purpose can change and do change as you evolve as a person. So don't think that just because it's a no now that it's always going to be a no. It's just that maybe it's a no for where you are right now. So I hope that was all helpful. I would love to hear from you guys what your biggest takeaway from today is. I would love to know what exactly resonated with you the most. I would also love to talk to you guys. So I talked throughout this a little bit about transformation and some of the things that we tackle. And so, like, if you feel like this resonated with you, of this concept of building this culture in your business, of finding this true purpose and aligning your goals and your activities to this true purpose, and this is something you want to talk more about getting help with, accountability with, getting an action plan to make happen, then comment transformation in the comments below, and I'll reach out to you. We'll hop on a call, talk about what's going on in your business, talk about if we might be a good fit to move forward together in this transformation process and getting your business to the point where it's aligned with where you want it to be. So you can just comment transformation in the comments below, and I will reach out to you. You don't have to do anything else. But today's class on culture, like I said, is something that was really important to me, especially after reading the Culture Code. If you haven't read it yet, I highly recommend. I won't keep you guys anymore, but I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Go kick off the week. Be amazing. You guys are all rock stars. And thank you so much for showing up today. Have a good one.